Hey guys, good afternoon. Good morning to some of you. I'm glad you all came in early this time. So we're gonna start right away, but basically this is a recorded webinar. So later this afternoon or maybe tomorrow, we're gonna upload a video on YouTube. For those who missed the initial part. So how are you guys? I hope you guys are safe right now. Yeah. So this webinar is about the EnGenius cloud updates, as well as EnSky updates. So we've been releasing a lot of updates for the EnGenius Cloud, and Sky not so much, but we'll be releasing a lot soon. So let me go over the agenda today. Okay, first up, we're gonna talk about EnSky updates, mainly the Easy Master and Sky Key, whether it's an Easy Master via VM or Easy Master using AWS. So we've done a simultaneous release of upgrade enhancements for the EnSky series is account management enhancement. So I'm gonna go over that later on. And then we have Hotspot 2.0, which is something very important, especially if you have clients that are wireless ISPs or maybe ISPs themselves. And then we have wireless settings updates as well to make it on par with the cloud in terms of security. For cloud updates, we've added the option to ban, kick and ban clients. The most awaited splash page editor, it's now here. It has some compatibility issues right now, but I suggest to use Chrome if you want to use a splash page editor. We also have SSID profile cloning, which I'll talk about in a bit. And then in a while, I'm going to give you guys a preview on what else is coming for the EnGenius Cloud updates. If you have any questions, you can type it on chat, and then we'll go over it later on, maybe after I discuss the whole thing. Okay, first up is EnSky updates. So what are new on the Easy Master? We've added more tools in order to manage your network in terms of multi-tenancy. If you're a client uh, if you're an MSP, an ISP, or a client that have multiple end users, so we've added more roles in terms of multi-tenancy. So I'll go over the slides first, and then I'll go through the actual UI later. So you have your main admin account, which can manage multiple projects. Uh, he also can do configuration, add and remove devices, and of course, monitor. Then we have a manager role. So what a manager does is basically he can do configuration, he can manage specific projects, which is assigned by the admin. And then he can also add or delete devices that have been added by the admin on the inventory. Of course, you can also do monitoring. And then we have the users, which can basically configure projects, delete devices, not add, just delete specifically, and monitor. And then we have the guests who basically can just monitor the Easy Master itself. What else is added is Hotspot 2.0. So what is Hotspot 2.0? A brief overview is basically, let's say you have your mobile phone, you're using a one of the carriers that you have. Let's say, for example, Singtel. So Singtel, they can also establish hotspots across Singapore, maybe on train stations, the airports, coffee shops, and so on, most public places. So let's say you're subscribed to Singtel with your mobile data. As you walk in to one of their hotspots in the vicinity, your phone would automatically connect to the access point without the need for authentication. There is authentication, but it happens on the background using Hotspot 2.0 or Passpoint. So that type of login will be using your SIM card, but there are different types of authentication as well when you use Hotspot 2.0, such as, for example, let's say at home you have a internet line, you're subscribed to one of the ISPs using DSL or fiber. When you go out to one of the hotspots of that particular ISP, you can log in using the same username and password that you use at home. So it makes it easier, it makes it more seamless, and it makes it more secure as well. Now, a lot of ISPs in Asia market have been implementing Hotspot 2.0. We can see this growing even further uh, when what do you call this? 5G has been released because basically 5G has a shorter range as compared to the current LTE. So they would require to have more base stations. For an ISP, it would be more feasible to deploy multiple access points because it costs less. Compatibility of this new firmware applies to these models on the screen right now. Unfortunately, not all models would support WPA3 and Hotspot 2.0 because of the hardware architecture. So mainly the Wave 2 access points and above can support WPA3. Okay, so before we move on to the cloud, let me show you guys how it looks like on the UI. Okay, so I have my Easy Master right here. Let me log in. So the latest version, 1.0.3 for the Easy Master has been uploaded on our website already. So you can guys download if you have an existing Easy Master to update. You can also use a one-click update to update the Easy Master. But if you're using a very old version, like maybe 1.03 or 0.96 or something, I would suggest to manually upload the firmware of the controller to upgrade the Easy Master. So under global settings, if you're logged in using an admin account, you can go under account management. And then from here, you would see some new tabs and new items. So right now there are three accounts that have been preset. If you want to add an account, basically this is your multi-tenancy for the Easy Master. You just key in the username, the password, some information about this user so you can remember who you assign it to. And then you can select which project would you assign this user to. So down on the privileges, you have certain options such as a manager, normal, and guest. So just like what I mentioned a while ago, a manager basically can do whatever the admin does, except for modifying the admin settings. He can add and remove devices, which are added by the admin on the inventory. The normal user can delete devices only and configure, but not add. And then you have the guests who can basically monitor the entire project. So there's no limit on how many projects you get assigned for the user. For example, this is project one. Just a while. Okay, so let's say this is project one. I want to make him a manager for this project, and then this other project, maybe he's just a guest, and that's it. So the rest of the project will be blocked from his view. One neat thing that has been added here is the list for online users. Right now, I don't have any users that are online. Wait, let me check other projects here. Maybe this one has. Yeah, so now there are no users that are online. But if I have, let's say, one of my admins, managers, guests that are online right now who are managing the projects, you would see the exact username here. The IP address in terms of the public IP, what operating system is using, what type of browser, and when did he log in. So from here, you know who are managing the networks. So again, if you're an MSP that are managing big projects on hand, you can see exactly who is currently monitoring those sites. If you want to kick some users, you can do so as well. And if you want to revoke access, you can immediately do that from the account list. Another thing that you can do right here is to export this online users or your sub admins. So you can have those for reference. So whatever data you can see right here is exported in a CSV format. Other settings that have been implemented is more on to reduce the consumption of resources on your server. As we all know, the EasyMaster is hosted on the VM or AWS. So VM types have a limitation on the server to prevent people from hogging all those resources. So you can limit their login session. You can either limit their the login session itself. Once they log in, after 10 minutes, they'd be kicked out. Or if they go idle for a certain number of minutes, they'd be kicked out as well. So again, this is very useful in order to manage the resources of your server. Okay, so let me go to one of the projects. So this is where you can find Hotspot 2.0. Inside the project, if you go onto the Hotspot service tab, there is a Hotspot 2.0 button there. So when you add a profile, basically this will, uh, whoever you're working with, whichever wireless ISP or partner, they just have to key in the credentials right here so that you can connect to the Hotspot 2.0 profile. For Hotspot 2.0 to work, take note that the backend system of the ISP who's implementing the system need to have a Hotspot 2.0 server as well for it to work. So it kind of works like a Radius server where you have your database there. It's just that you're sharing the database for your cellular connectivity or your home internet line to the access point line. So you don't have to re authenticate again. So there are other bug fixes on this Easy Master version. I won't go over them, but basically they solve a lot of issues. And this may be the last version to release for the Easy Master before we upgrade it to Easy Master 2.0, which is happening later this year. So there are other things that has been added to this Easy Master version, such as support for WPA3 encryption. Let me show you guys where it is. Let me create an SSID right here. Okay. So Hotspot 2.0 is here. You can enable or disable it. You can select the profile that you have already created if you have. Traffic shaping. This one has been modified a bit as well. So when you enable traffic shaping, of course, you can select per SSID or per user to throttle the bandwidth or to set a cap. Here now you can set a download limit in kbps as well. So for hotspot deployments that doesn't require a lot of bandwidth and are very what do you call this? They don't have enough bandwidth to provide, so they can do a cap based on kbps. Maybe you only want to give a client 512 kbps for free internet or something. You can do so. Under security mode, this is where you can find additional options. If you joined my last webinar in terms of the cloud SSID configuration, you would notice that some of the items are the same. So you also have OWE or opportunistic wireless encryption. Basically, what it is it's an open security. Anybody can connect, but it makes sure that each connection is encrypted to prevent people from hacking in. You still have your WPA2 option, which is only for AES. You have WPA3 right here. Do take note that if you're using WPA3, because right now not all devices support WPA3 yet. So if you want to ensure compatibility, you can select WPA2/WPA3 instead. So it will work for both new devices and legacy devices. And then we also have WPA3 Enterprise, which uses a Radius server. And again, for compatibility, you have WPA2/WPA3. So for the Easy Master, basically that's about it. Let me go on to the cloud just a while. Okay, so the EnGenius Cloud have more exciting updates. Let me go through them. Instead of going through the slides, let me just show you the UI. Okay, so I'm going to one of my projects. Let me see here. So let's start with SSID cloning, what it is and how can you make use of it. So usually when you create an SSID, you just click on add SSID and then you start from scratch. You configure all the settings, the name, the profile, and everything. But what if you want to set it up quickly? You just want to base your settings from an existing SSID that you already have created. So here on the top right corner, there's a new button that we call clone from. So when you click on clone from, basically you're copying one of the existing SSIDs. So let's say, let me copy Jumpstart. Apply. Then it will copy whatever settings I have there and put it on right here. So SSID would be modified a bit to let you know that this is a copied version. So from here, if you're using the same authentication, you just want to tweak some other settings. Let's say this one, I want to change the SSID to Jumpstart 2. Maybe here I want to use NAT mode. change traffic shaping, etc., you can do so. So cloning an SSID may be simple, but it's very, very useful in terms of multiple or quick deployments. Okay, another thing that has been added on this new version on the cloud is the ability to block clients. Let me go to a live network. Okay, so here I'm under my client list, which you can find under manage. So you can see a list of clients that are on right now that are active. So for example, I want to block somebody's Galaxy Note 10. So I just click on this client, or I can select multiple actually. And then I click on block on the right hand side. And then now the option is on SSID. We'll be updating this to be able to block the client on all your, basically the whole network, not just on our specific SSID. So once I add this client to be blocked on this SSID, which is an office dash 5 gig, he would be kicked out and he won't be able to browse the net or access the network. If you want to unblock this client, you have to go to the SSID. So here you would find a new tab called Access Control. So under Access Control, you would have all the MAC addresses or the clients that you have blocked. You can also manually block a specific client from here by keying in the MAC address and a description to remind you who this client is. Next update would be adding an option to whitelist or to set clients or tag them as VIPs. We don't know yet how it works, but we'll update you guys on the coming weeks. Okay, so one feature that everyone has been requesting is this customizability of the splash page. So if you go over to the splash page, you would see a new window right here with a bunch of tools that you can modify. So let me go to the presets first. So we have a classic template and one is tag as natural. So the layout is a bit different. Depending on what type of authentication you select, it would also appear or reflect here. So right now I have splash and go. So this is how the screen would look like. You can have the tablet view, you have your large phone view, and you also have a small phone view, just in case you want to see. So for example, I change it to, let me see, let's say custom radius. So if I go to splash page and now I have a field to key in the username and password. So it will reflect whatever changes you do or whatever type of authentication you have. So let's say for now I'm using click through or splash and go to my splash page. If I want to edit, I can directly edit from this screen. I can say hi, hello. So you can paste any text that you want, any characters. You can also use emojis. So everything on the screen here you can edit. But if you do make an edit or if you customize a page, make sure that you don't delete this button, connect to the internet, because basically your clients will get stuck. Once they get the splash page, there's no button for them to continue onwards. So you can also add, let's say, images. For example, I want to add an image here below. Let me try this one. So if you have a company logo or something, you can edit it out. You can also delete directly from this page. What if, for example, I want to configure the background? Right now, they haven't added to specifically add the ability to upload it in terms of UI access, but you can also do so using HTML coding. So if you click on the upper left-hand tab, I have an HTML tab right here. So it will show you all the coding that it has for HTML. So for example, let's say I want to modify the background. If you know a bit of HTML coding, it would be easy on how to do it. So let's try that right now. So I just basically find where the link is for the background image. Let me grab one from the net. So let's say I want to use this as my background image. So I just pasted a new background URL. So if you go back to your preview page, you would see that the background have changed. So what else can I do with this with my splash page. What if you want to add videos? You can actually link YouTube videos here as well. You can embed it. You guys know the option that YouTube can embed videos, right? So let's pull one video. Okay, this is the EnGenius APAC YouTube page. Let's say I want to, sorry about the noise. Let's say I want to embed this video on my splash page. So click on share, click on embed. It would show you a bunch of text that you can copy. So go back to HTML. Let's say I want to paste the video just after the welcome message. So try to find the coding here where you have the welcome message. Okay, should be right about here. Okay, again, be careful. Don't remove this button right here because this is the only button that would allow your guest to connect to the internet. So that would be this stuff right here. So don't delete that. So let's add another line for YouTube, and let's see how that would look like. Okay, so now you can see that it's overblown. It covers the rest of your screen. So you can easily manage the size of the video right here. So let's say I set it to 300 by 230. Okay, there we go. So just nice. So you have your welcome message. They can see the video here, which they can play. If I'm not mistaken, you can also set it to autoplay. So all the advertisements could be running right here. They can view it before they go browse the internet. Okay, so what else is upcoming on the cloud apart from the splash page, blacklist, and what do you call this? Cloning the SSIDs. So by the 20th, that will be in 2 days. So there's going to be an update again on the cloud system. So I don't have that on my account. So let me use a developer account for a sec to show you guys what else is upcoming. Okay, so back to the client list under manage. So remember a while ago I showed you guys where you can block the clients right here. But on this account, which would happen on the next update, you can see that the client name is also clickable. So actually this has client timeline enabled. What client timeline is you can check the path of the client from the moment they started to connect to your SSID. Let me go back right here until the current status. So for example, March 11th, he connected to this SSID, which is SN guest. And then if I want to view further information, I can check right here. So he initially associated 2.4, and then actually band steering suggested him to connect to remain on 2.4 because of his signal quality. I can also see which radio he attempted to connect to. So he connected to a 5 gigahertz radio using 11 AC. His RSSI is pretty low, negative 91. That's why the system suggested that he connect instead to 2.4. So I'm not sure if it would show some issues right here because I think the clients that connected to this SSID had no issues at all. But in case you have an issue, it would specifically tell you what went wrong, why this client cannot connect. Is it because he typed the wrong password? Is this too far from the AP? Is your APE setting wrong or something? So it will show you the whole timeline. So as you can see right now, I can see the timeline from the 11th. That's when they enabled this feature on the developer account until today, March 18th. So his current status right now is, let me see. So this is in Taiwan. So the time zone is +8 GMT. So here we can see that he is still connected, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, he's still associated to this access point on this SSID. So client timeline would be very, very, very useful in terms of troubleshooting. It would allow you to do less probing because all the information that you need is basically on the screen already. And what good thing about the client timeline is uh, the duration on each client is kept on the server. So for example, this client connected maybe 15 days ago. I would say still be able to view his timeline from my network. So if I want to do investigations or something like that, I would be able to see or backtrack what's going on. Okay, so just a while. Let me go back to my PowerPoint. Okay, so sadly, the rest of the features are still locked. So basically, upcoming features that will be released tentative in 2 days or next week would be first is client timeline. This would be available on all cloud accounts that you have right now. Supposedly, client timeline is a unique function that will only be available for the enterprise version, which is the license-based version. But since we're not doing any licensing yet, all the features that you have on the cloud will be free for everyone. So we have the client timeline feature. We'll also be adding cloud switch features. Actually, let me check if this one is already enabled on the cloud account. Let me go back. Okay, let me see if they have a switch up. Okay, great. They have a lot. Let me see one. Okay, yeah. So this account has access as well to these new features. So I know port mirroring and link aggregation are basic layer two features of a switch, but this hasn't been available on the cloud yet. We haven't activated yet. You can access it on the local interface, but not on the cloud. So by next week, you should be able to do or use these functions as well. So first up is port mirroring. What is port mirroring? Let's say you want to monitor the traffic in and out of a specific port. So what it's going to do is it's going to mirror that information or send all the traffic on the port that you designated to, so you can review all the data. Usually used for troubleshooting. For example, you have Wireshark plugin to port. Let's say, let me enable this. Let's say you want to monitor port 23, and then I want to plug my monitoring server on port 2. So I would select port 2 as my server, and then I would select port 23 here as the port that I want to monitor. So here I can select whether it's an ingress or egress port. So that's upload and download. So you can monitor both communication methods or one way. If you just want to monitor egress, you can do so. If you want to monitor ingress only, you can do so as well. If you want to monitor both, just select both. You can also monitor multiple ports if you require that, but be careful of your server capacity, your viewing server. Be sure that it can handle all the load. So we also have link aggregation. What is link aggregation? Basically, it's trunking the ports, not to be confused with VLAN trunk. This is different. Link aggregation combines physical ports to create a logical port to increase the speed mainly. For example, okay, I have a few options right here: LACP, static, or disabled. Static is more of manual configuration of your link aggregation. LACP, link aggregation control protocol, is mainly done automatically. So let's say I select LACP. So I want to link aggregate ports 1 and 2. So if this is, okay, this is ECS 1128FP. This is a 1 gigabit Ethernet port. So if I link aggregate those ports, it's going to create one single 2 gigabyte port. You get what I'm saying here? There's no limit on how many ports you can link aggregate. Let's say, for example, I want to link aggregate 8 ports together to create one logical 8 gigabyte uplink. So I can do so as well using link aggregation. So just remember that whatever setting that you set on one side, let's say on one side I have eight ports link aggregated, combined speed would be 8 gigabytes. On the opposite end, where those 8 cables are going to, that switch needs to be set up with link aggregation as well, with the same number of ports. So yeah, those are the new features that are upcoming on the cloud. Let me go back to my slide. So you have your client timeline, you have your cloud switch features such as port monitoring, link aggregation, which you can configure on the cloud. EnGenius Cloud application. Sadly, I don't have the beta app here on my end, so I can't show you guys. But basically, right now, using the EnGenius Cloud app, you're able to register devices. You can monitor devices, you can tweak the LEDs, and so on and so forth. But you cannot configure anything yet on the Cloud app. Now, this would be available next week as well for both iOS and Android. So you'll be able to fully configure your Cloud portal just from your app. So imagine how easy that would be for IT managers or IT staff managing multiple networks. There's also an SSID setup wizard. Again, unfortunately, I'm not able to show you guys how it looks like right now because I don't have the app yet. But basically, it's like if you guys have played with the NMesh app for our home routers, it's sort of similar. So it will run you through a wizard asking you what SSID you want to create, what's the encryption type, what's the password, and done. The setting is there right away. So it makes it easier to set up or configure. And then we'll also be adding a VIP client function. It's more of like whitelisting. I don't have a preview yet how it looks like, but I imagine it's something like, let's say this SSID has an authentication set. If I whitelist this particular MAC address, this particular client, uh, he would then be able to log in automatically without authentication, something like that. So we can show you guys a full preview once these features have been released. Okay, so now let me go over your questions. Let me check if you have some questions right here. Let me open it. One question right here is the client timeline data be kept for 7 days or 1 year? Okay, currently for the free account, since we don't have any limit yet, what I can see from the account is you can view all the data so long as it's within 1 month. So one word of data for the access points, statistics, client information, client timeline will be stored on the cloud. And then for 1 year, this one is confirmed. It's going to be 1 year. Sorry, for the enterprise version, it's going to be 1 year of statistics data that is stored on the system. But again, we're not going to release any licensing yet until maybe around end of this year. So until then, all the features that we'll be releasing on the cloud will be free for everyone to utilize. Okay, one question right here is, can we use top? Oh, okay. Can we use OTP or OTP authentication on the splash page? Right now, we cannot do that directly from our system alone. But what you can do is set up a third-party hotspot gateway server linked to them to be able to authenticate using OTP. So we have a lot of partners right now, a lot of hotspot gateway providers that are compatible with EnGenius, and a lot of them supports OTP right now. So when you link with them, then you can use OTP as well using our splash page. Another question right here is, how does the voucher authentication work? This one I talked about last week or the 2 weeks before, but basically we have voucher authentication. Let me just show you guys the UI again. Okay, so voucher authentication, how does it work? Let me show you. Let me see. Okay, so let's say I set this up using Captive Portal with voucher service. Let me apply this. Okay, now I don't have plans right now as of the moment. So let's create some plans. Let's say 1 hour access for one user. And then another plan would be, let's say, unlimited users and 1 day access. So now I have 2 plans generated from the admin side. Let me apply that. So here I have my unique front desk link. If you want to go into the detail, you can go back to the previous webinars, which are on YouTube. Let me just show you guys briefly how it works. So this is the front desk link, which is unique for every SSID that you create. So it's going to prompt you to log in again, either using your admin account or the front desk access. So when you log in, it's going to bring you to the voucher service portal or the front desk portal, wherein you can generate vouchers depending on what plans that you have set. So just now I've set 2 plans, 1 hour for one user and 1 day for multiple users. So from here, you can either auto-generate a voucher, or manually key in the username or just the password for that voucher. So let's say you want to auto generate like 50 vouchers. So click on generate pass using your front desk login, and then it will generate all those vouchers right here. So if you go to your what do you call this, your voucher list, it would show you who created the voucher. This is my login. Is the voucher still valid? Will it expire soon? If you want to print this vouchers, you can just highlight which ones you want to print and select from here. So this is how it's going to look like. So you get your user ID, the password. If you actually set an expiration here, it will show you the expiration time and date as well. Okay, so next question is, how do you find the SSID MAC from the cloud controller? Okay, let me go back here. Okay, so this is a very good question. Mainly, if you want to integrate with third-party hotspot gateway providers. So how do you actually know what SSID MAC address your cloud controller is using? So here, if you go to your access point page, you would see the MAC addresses right here. So this MAC address is tied to your SSIDs as well. So the LAN MAC address would be this base MAC of your AP. And then your 2.4 MAC address would be one step higher. So that would be 3C. And then the 5 gigahertz MAC address would be two steps higher. So you have 88DC 967B E63 D, and so on and so forth. And then the more SSIDs you create, the second digit right here would change as well. So for example, my first SSID is 88, second SSID is 8E, and so on and so forth. This is more in the technical side, but basically if you want to get more information about this, you can just let us know and we'll contact you directly. Okay, another question is, just want to confirm that soon you will block clients via IP. Right now, the way that we block clients is through MAC address. If I'm not mistaken, we will not implement blocking through the IP address. That one, we would still have that function remain on the routers or the firewall in the backend system. But what you can block from the controller using our wireless access point are the MAC addresses of specific clients. Okay, another question is, can we do user, I'm sorry, wait, let me, I think the question is, can we see user authentication and user log details? So yeah, you can see the clients that are going on in and out of your system. You have the logs for that as well. So you can see, for example, which SSID the client linked to, or if you're viewing it through client timeline, then you have more in-depth information on where the client connected to, at what time, and so on and so forth. But basic logs are there as well, if you want to just view the basic logs and information. By the way, talking about logs, so you can see that right now I just created a voucher. So here it's telling me that my account created a voucher, this voucher and so on using this SSID. So under configuration, a while ago I was playing around with the SSID. It also tells you that this person changed this SSID. So when you're doing multi-tenancy, this is very useful. So you'd know who made what change on the system. So you can easily trace right away. If you'd see that somebody unauthorized changed something on the system, then you can quickly approach that person. So each account on the cloud is linked through their individual email addresses. So you can quickly block them or amend their rights from managing your network. Okay, going back to the questions, let me see. Can we see AP network uptime reports and also export it? So yeah, you can see the AP uptime. Let me go through my APs right now. So the access point is right here, uptime. If you haven't enabled it, you can enable it using the ticker on the right hand side. So like you can see, these APs have been active for 31 days right now and 12 hours for 4 minutes. Last update here means when did it last update the statistics going to the cloud. Can we export the information? Soon you'd be able to, not as of the moment. But basically you'd be able to generate rich reports and specific reports based on what you want. You can select if you want to, let's say, generate reports based on your clients, based on the AP throughput, based on the channel activity in the area. You'd be able to export that type of data. We'll advise you when we're going to implement that, but it's not going to be next week yet. It's not part of the next update. Another question is, does EnGenius have API for third-party captive portal integration, and where can I find them? So good question right there. So if you want to know how to integrate with third-party hotspot gateway servers, you just have to go to your SSID. By the way, this is where you set it up. For example, this for SSID, I want to tweak it as to use with captive portal using custom radius server, and I want to use an external splash page. So if I want to do this, I would need to tweak some coding on the hotspot gateway server side. So where can I find that data? So top right, you have a question mark here, your help button, and then you have a user manual. When you open that manual, just a minute. Actually, we haven't released that data publicly yet. If you want to do integration with third-party hotspot gateway vendors, just approach us so we can give you the actual link on where that manual is. But I can show you guys right now how it looks like. Just a while. So yeah, so we have this external splash page document that you guys can use in case you want to integrate with third-party hotspot gateway providers. In case you want to use this file, let our sales managers know, the country managers for your designated regions know that you need it so that they can provide it to you. Okay, next question is, what is the latency for RSSI band steering for cloud control? Okay, this is a very good technical question. So the person is asking is that what is the delay for band steering between radios? Let's say you shift from 2.4 to 5 gig and so on. So what is the latency? The latency there is actually not over 50 millisecond. So that's a very, very short time frame. It will not affect your connectivity. It's the same type of amount of latency that we use when we do fast roaming. So when you roam from one AP to another, the maximum it can take is 50 milliseconds. So if you're on a voice call, you're doing Skype call or something, you wouldn't get disconnected when you move from AP to AP. Okay, another question is, what's the difference creating one SSID and 8 SSIDs with speed and concurrent users? Okay, good question as well. So what a person is asking here is, if I have one SSID versus, let's say, 4, 5, or 8 SSIDs, how will this affect the speed of your access point and to the concurrent clients? So as we all know, the access point itself, of course, it has a limit on how many SSIDs it can generate. So each access point has about 8 SSID profiles, or if you count both 2.4 and 5 gig, you have 16 different B SSIDs. So depending on how much bandwidth you have on the back end as well, your speed would be divided amongst those clients. If you're using VLAN, let's say one SSID, one VLAN, that would be a different story. But basically, the maximum speed of your hardware would be divided amongst the clients connecting to your AP. Doesn't matter how many SSIDs are running. What matters is how many users are connected to your access point. That's how you try to count how much bandwidth you have left. Okay, another question right here is for captive portal settings, if we use EnGenius authentication, where can we view the authentication logs? So for a captive portal, authentication logs will remain the same. It would be under the logs portion. Just a minute. Under the event logs. So all the client connectivity would show here as well. Or if you're using an external captive portal, external radio server, third-party hotspot gateway provider, so the logs would show on that system as well. Okay, yeah. So again, if you guys want to view, or you need this captive portal documents, if you want to link to an external splash page, just let us know so we can give you the link. Okay, so another question right here is just well, let me see. Yeah. So the question of the guy is, does EnGenius have API for third-party hotspot captive portal integration, and where can you find them? So yeah, we do have this document. So as I've mentioned, if you need this file, depending on your region, so just contact your country manager, and then he can provide this link to you. Of course, we need to know as well who you're integrating with, so we can assist you all the way as well. Okay, in the splash page, how to view the video if the client hasn't have internet access? So, good question right here. So, let's say on your splash page, how will the client view the videos that that you have, or how will the client view the actual buttons on your splash page if he doesn't have authentication yet? So, what you can do is, okay, let me go back to my splash page as well. So, on your SSID, if you go to one of them, let me go back to splash page. So let's say on this splash page, I have my YouTube video here on the splash screen. What you can do is enable um, walled garden. So walled garden would allow the clients to browse through a specific URL that you key in, whether it's CIDR form or URL format. Whatever URL that you type right here, the client can go through it without authentication. So walled garden is used to whitelist those specific pages for them to be able to see, let's say, the button or the video and so on. But basically, for our splash page, whatever that you configure on the splash page is automatically whitelisted already, so you don't have to worry about that as well. Okay, guys. Do you have any other questions? By the way, again, if you've missed the first part of this webinar, because we started on time, we'll have a recording of this webinar and then we'll post it on YouTube later on. Okay, another question is, will the access point continue to function from user login point of view if the cloud loses internet access? So let's say our server goes down. Will the clients still be able to continue to use the internet, the network, since all the APs communicate to that cloud controller? Depending on what they're using, if you have captive portal enabled and the client have not authenticated yet, basically the client will not be able to browse the internet or authenticate to the internet because authentication will be over the cloud. If you're using a simple SSID login using WPA2 or WPA3, if the cloud is down, the client will still be able to log in and continue to access the net. If, let's say, you're using captive portal, the client have already authenticated, the cloud went down, you'd still be able to connect as well. So, summary, existing clients that are already connected on the network would still be able to browse the internet normally. If you're using captive portal, you won't be able to authenticate if the controller is down. If you're not using the captive portal, you'd still be able to authenticate using any other forms of encryption. Okay, so please tell us your YouTube channel name. So on YouTube, you can go ahead and search EnGenius APAC. Let me show you guys that right now. So yeah, from here you can see a summary of our webinars. We upload it um, from time to time. So we have the previous webinars right here. We also have some marketing videos and information about the cloud and the EnSky solution too. And yeah, Nancy have posted the link on the chat, so you can find that from there. Okay, guys. Any other question? in terms of the cloud or EnSky? Okay, so if you guys have further questions, you can go ahead and just send me an email or Skype. So I guess that ends our webinar session today. Again, the recording of this webinar, in case you missed the first part, would be posted on YouTube and maybe advertised on our Facebook page as well. And thank you so much, guys, for attending. I think right now we have a lot of users because most of you are working from home. I hope you guys keep safe as well. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everyone, for attending.
Thank you, Milo.
Thank you.